Good morning, everyone.
Howdy.
It is Monday.
It's Monday.
And not a sometimes this week for you.
I was going to say, yeah, I know. You're going to be here. You know, since I did that part of the intro, you've been on the show.
I know. That's why I did it. Just because, Jeff. Just because you put sometimes on there, I have been on here almost every day. Just because.
You've actually, since I've done that, been on more frequently than I have.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. That's the way it goes.
Mason Eubank is joining us today.
Hi, how's it going?
Not
It's
bad.
going. It's a Monday.
It is a Monday.
Definitely a Monday.
You can sort of hear it in the energy in our voices.
Yeah, it's a Monday.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But it's a good Monday.
Why is that?
It's National Dog Day.
Oh, man, I was going to get to that.
I know.
Okay,
I just jumped right into
let's
it.
just go
today.
right into it.
I mean, I'm not even going to wait on that one because that's the only way to make a Monday a better day.
Nice.
Because it is National Dog Day today. Yes.
Dogs are pretty great.
You gotta love dogs.
I have a little Chihuahua at home.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Chihuahuas are funny.
Gizmo. Yeah, he's the weirdest looking dog. I tell you what. My parents have Chihuahuas too, and they're like the reindeer Chihuahua with they have super long legs.
Reindeer Chihuahua. I don't think I've
Chihuahua.
ever heard of that.
There's different
I have to look at this.
classifications,
Right.
And so mine's like the applehead, like the typical
Chihuahua.
doofy looking
Right.
Chihuahua. Reindeer Chihuahuas.
We won't tell Gizmo you called him doofy looking. But
are they have the pear head, but they have super long legs.
Yeah.
And they they'll lay down and they'll just fold up into their body, and you look at them and then they stand up and it's like ah.
Okay,
Did you find a picture of one?
I guess I did, but I was going to show this video of them actually,
No one is certain of the dog's origins. It sounds like a conspiracy theory
Yeah,
video.
I was going to actually try and show a video where these dogs were, moving around and not just a bunch of still images.
Cody Brown is with us in theory if there's conspiracy theories going on here.
Oh.
I don't think it's going to work.
All right. Well, that's actually, I mean, I've definitely seen Chihuahuas like that.
Yeah, they just got real long legs. They've got
They don't
long snout.
Those Chihuahuas don't seem to have as bad an attitude as the other.
Yeah.
It's because they're taller.
That's what it is.
They don't have short dog syndrome.
Yeah.
So
they're that's the funniest thing about Chihuahuas. How they
50% hate, 50% tremble.
Yeah, that's pretty.
that's true.
That's almost exactly right.
Do you have a dog, Jeff?
I don't, but we do have the cat that lives next door. Loves us. Loves us to death.
Do you claim that as your pet?
The cat claims
the cat
us.
that lives next door.
The cat claims us. That's the way it works with cats.
You don't get to choose a cat.
You don't
the cat
choose cats.
chooses you. Yeah.
Did you leave milk out?
No, we don't feed that cat. Sometimes when it's really hot outside, I'll put some.
Do you
water
pet
out.
it?
Yeah, absolutely.
See, exactly.
That's. I mean, how do you not?
That's right.
But I do like dogs. If I almost got a dog when I was living in my apartment in Brooklyn, but I'm not really a small dog.
Right, person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to have a medium or big sized dog.
In a small area like that, yeah.
Especially when you have to work for the whole day.
Right.
And if you even want to have a social life.
Yeah, because I've never been a dog owner.
Yeah.
I had pets growing up, so we had a cat and
Right.
different pets, but never been a dog owner. But I do like dogs better as far as a pet would be concerned. But again, I like larger dogs, like labs or German shepherds, those type of dogs.
Right.
Obviously, I don't like the shedding of those larger dogs.
that.
That's always that's a problem. So for me, a dog has always been if I was going to have one, have it outside till I got married, and then of course we have our lovely three-legged schnauzer. So
That sounds super fun.
yeah, Zoe's actually a good dog, but she's an inside-outside dog. So I mean, she stays inside most of the time, but she's trained because Steph had her before we got married.
Okay.
But yeah, she's a decent dog. She's gotten a little more barky since we moved into our neighborhood, and she has her yard, so she protects her yard.
Right.
People walk up and down the alley, and that sets her off, which then in turn sets me off because I'm like, no, I don't want a barking dog. Let me know when someone is doing something they're not supposed to. But when they're just walking down the alley behind you, leave them alone.
Right.
So
it's a preventative measure for dogs, I think.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's kind of funny. Usually you get a dog fixed to make them stop barking. Typically.
Yeah, well, she's fixed.
Yeah.
That didn't work.
To me.
Yeah, so that's what's really weird because my dog wasn't fixed for a while. We got him fixed, and then he started barking.
Then he became the barker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah, but I will say I do love Zoe. She's a great dog. But I don't like the responsibility of trying to get out of town for a weekend or something like that. Then you got to either find someone to watch her, take care of her. I mean, I'm not going to be that dog parent that just like,
really
hey, we'll throw some food out and we'll leave you.
Yeah. No,
she'll eat a remote or something. Right. And then I'll kill her. So
if I were to get a dog, I think what I'd like to get is a pit bull.
My wife had one at one time, and she said it was probably one of the best dogs she ever had. They have such a bad rap.
They have a really bad rap. And when I was a kid, there are a lot of neighborhoods in San Angelo that they don't have alleys.
Right.
It'll just be the backyards butted up against each other.
Oh, right.
So we had a neighbor who was directly behind us, who I hung out with, and they had a pit bull. And she was generally a nice enough dog. She mostly stayed outside, but she had had puppies. And they warned me. They said, Jeff, do not go near that doghouse because she just had puppies, and you're not the family.
Right.
And my mom called me, and I walked right up to that back fence, and I just completely forgot about the dog, and it bit me.
Oh, wow.
And after that, I thought that I was scared of pit bulls until I met an actual pit bull. And they're just the goofiest, sweetest. They're nice dogs.
Same thing happened with me with women when I was in college.
Yeah, I mean...
No, just kidding.
All right. So what else?
What else? Next thing.
Let's we gotta move on.
Speaking of women,
Cherry Popsicle Day.
Oh, that?
Yeah,
I thought you were going to go the other way.
I'm not going to go to the other one yet.
Oh, okay.
Cherry Popsicle Day today.
What a very specific day.
Yeah.
Well, it's because there's so many different popsicles. They have to come up with different days for
Yeah,
everyone.
right,
But
yeah.
Cherry Popsicle Day is today.
Cherry Popsicle.
And there's a specific cherry popsicle manufacturer who felt left out, probably. I don't know who that is, but just, it's a guess.
Do you like cherry popsicles?
I guess they're okay. I haven't,
when was the last time you had a popsicle?
It's been a long time.
A while.
It's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer ice cream over popsicles.
Yeah, I generally like ice cream a lot better. My girlfriend really likes Minute Maid makes.
Oh yeah,
ices.
Those little. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I have like really sensitive teeth, so
Really?
like I can't like do popsicles.
I think generally I gravitate towards chocolate desserts. What else do we have? Webmistress Day.
And not that kind.
Right? But
like a webmaster, but
a webmistress.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's odd. I don't think anybody calls anyone webmaster anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
like, what was it, like web admin now or something?
Yeah, generally there's like an admin. Anti-Frizz month. August is the right month for that, I think. Man, it gets humid. My stuff just goes crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got naturally curly hair. That's why I'm wearing a hat today.
Yeah. Mine, once I hit puberty, curled like crazy. But maybe not as much as yours.
That's interesting.
But the big one today, which is going to tie in with this day in history, today is Women's Equality Day.
That it is.
That it is. Women's Equality Day commemorates... Hold on a second. That's weird. Oh, okay. Commemorates August 26th, 1920, when votes to women officially became part of the U.S. Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So...
We should have had a woman on today for that.
We really...
Why did we bring Mason on?
Found somebody...
should have found a girl.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right.
So what I was going to do is I was going to go here to this.
A girl.
Today is officially the ratification of the 19th Amendment in 1920.
Yes.
And women had been fighting for the right to vote for a good century before that. And it was finally signed into law due to a lot of hard work. If you know anything about what it takes to amend the Constitution, it's hard work.
I mean, you get it done in, what, a couple of thousand years?
Right.
Yeah. If you work on it for a good 50 to 100 years, you can make that happen.
Yep.
Can we play the scene from Mary Poppins, the sister suffragette?
Oh, hey.
That's a good thought.
That's a good thought. Sister suffragette. It's funny to look back at all the political cartoons of the time.
Oh, yeah.
And all the fear-mongering that happened surrounding women getting the right to vote.
Yeah.
They were just like, they'll leave their family, they're going to leave the men to do everything. And it's going to be a total disaster. And no.
And it wasn't.
It was totally not.
That's fine.
Everything went fine.
It's kind of like Y2K.
Yeah.
Everything was going to shut down.
Yeah.
No computers would ever work again. Yeah.
We're living in the dark ages.
It is funny to look back at the different times in history when we've expanded the franchise. And essentially the same arguments have always gone against them, where it's just like, oh no, it's going to ruin democracy for everybody else if we give these people any sort of power at all.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, that's not.
You know what's funny about this scene? I think it was written in to the movie. It wasn't part of the books at all. If I remember right. Yeah.
I actually didn't know that there were Mary Poppins books.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, what was her name? Travers. Travers. I think is the name of the original writer of the Mary Poppins books. But yeah, there's a whole movie called Saving Mr. Banks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
Mm-hmm.
About how he had to really pursue this writer so that she would give him the movie rights to the.
Wow.
To the.
What's really wild to think about is the fact that women were granted the right to vote in 1920. They still couldn't have a credit card until 1973.
Oh yeah.
Really? That's kind of surprising, honestly.
Yeah.
We'll let you vote, but you can't charge anything.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't.
Have
your own.
You can't have any money.
Financial independence, not for you. What else happened today? On this day.
There was in 1957, the Ford Motor Company revealed the Edsel.
Hey, that's cool.
Which was its latest luxury car there.
Oh, man, that's interesting. You know,
the old Edsel.
My dad likes to restore cars. And when I was a kid, he had an Edsel that was just sitting in the yard for so long because he just never had the time to really get to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember hearing that the Edsel was named after Ford's son. That was actually his son's name, and it was one of the only failures of the Ford Motor Company.
Oh no!
It didn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
But that made his son feel really good.
I'm sure it did. Yeah. I mean, it might have been introduced a while after Henry Ford stopped managing the company, but I don't really know.
Yeah, he only had one son.
Edsel.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Edsel Ford.
That's crazy.
What else do we have here? We have Joan of Arc's arrival in the outskirts of Paris. That's actually interesting. That's happening on the same day.
On the same day that women were allowed to vote.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For people who don't know, I have a really glancing understanding of what happened surrounding Joan of Arc. But from my understanding, the English were ruling France at the time, and she led a lot of forces against the English and I think against Protestantism, but I'm not totally certain. Yeah.
Well, I think there was a lot of things that I guess women tried to do on the state. Because in 1970, if you take my screen, nationwide women's strike for equality on the 50th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. So for unequal pay and other gender inequalities in America, so they did that strike.
Wow.
I think that's obviously one of those days. You know, you look for those particular days, and that's what those women look for to, I guess, bring up issues.
Right.
On those days. So
they're like, hey, we got this thing here.
When attention is already being paid to that day.
Yeah.
All right.
It's interesting. I was reading something about the Equal Rights Amendment that is still something that never passed, but it was introduced in the 1970s, right around that time. That people are still, it's getting a little more attention, and who knows? Maybe it'll pass at some point in the next 50 years, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it only takes how long to change the Constitution?
It's a lot of hard work. What else do we have? The volcano Krakatoa in Indonesia began to erupt, and 36,000 people were killed by the eruption and the resulting tsunami.
Wow, I was gonna make a joke about Krakatoa, and then you finish the sentence, and I was like,
my screen.
Maybe I shouldn't make that joke anymore.
36,000 people.
Wow.
In 1883, that's a huge number of people. I didn't know
much
about.
1883, they couldn't log onto their phones and be like, "Why is there smoke in the sky?"
What? They didn't have cell phones back then?
They didn't have
Yeah, they definitely didn't.
ConchoValleyHomepage.com.
Except if you look at those photos that Cody brought up, where the dude's walking around with his phone in his hand or whatever.
Oh yeah, right.
Conspiracy theory.
The time traveler.
Oh yeah,
Time travelers.
The time traveler. The guy with the sunglasses and the sweater. Yeah.
The guy that's obviously too cool for 1942 or whatever that was. What else do we have? During the 100 Years' War, the English, led by Edward III, defeated the French at the Battle of Crécy. Crécy? Don't know how to pronounce that. Don't actually know that much about the 100 Years' War, or
Lasted
whether it
100
actually
years?
lasted 100 years.
Did it?
Might have.
But, aside from Women's Equality Day,
National Dog Day is pretty big.
National Dog Day is a big deal.
So.
That is a big deal. So that's that as far as this day in history.
Some good days, though.
Some other national days, maybe.
Cherry Popsicle Day, I could take it or leave
Cherry
it.
Popsicle Day.
An American in Paris was released on this day.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
On this day in history today, it was the first day of classes at ASU.
That's right.
Hey
On
Jude
this day in very,
released.
very recent history.
Yeah.
Hey Jude released in 1968.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
And Na 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 has been stuck in everyone's heads ever since.
Isn't somebody making a movie? There's a movie coming out soon.
Are they doing another musical biography like
It's
Bohemian Rhapsody
so what it
or
is-
Rocket Man?
No, this is actually the story is this guy, just a regular guy.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
saw the trailer, right?
The Beetle
Where
one.
he-
I know what you're talking about.
Like
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where
it
he somehow
came
gets
out. It's been
transported
out for
to
a while.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I just saw the trailer for it.
He
recently,
like goes to sleep and wakes up the next day and like no one had ever heard of the Beatles.
Right.
And then he becomes this like huge international pop star because he knows all
knows the Beatles songs.
Beatles
Yeah.
songs. Yeah.
that would be that would be a nice break,
Right.
but I'd feel super dishonest the whole time.
yeah.
I feel like a big jerk.
Yeah. I had meant to see that movie. I wonder how it did in the box office because I feel like a lot of people said they were going to see that movie and then
didn't go.
yeah. And that's kind of how it goes when your movie isn't the next Spider-Man or
Yeah.
Superhero flick.
yeah. It did
That's not so
okay.
bad.
I wonder if it made its budget back.
$118.9 million.
That's pretty. I mean, that's pretty modest for a big.
Oh wow!
movie.
I didn't realize this was a
nowadays.
Danny Boyle movie. Huh. So it only cost $26 million to make. So that's pretty
Yeah,
good.
they
So
made their money back.
it made some cash.
Yeah. That's also funny when we talk about like the big blockbusters. They're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in budget
Yeah.
and $1 billion in revenue.
Yeah.
But the movies that are really good at making money are the movies that are super cheap to make.
Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah. Well, I listened to this thing about RKO in the 1930s, and they had just almost been bankrupted by Orson Welles, making his extremely expensive arty movies.
Right.
And they were up against Universal, who was making all their monster movies and making a whole lot of money.
And they were like kind of cheap to make at that time.
Right. So they decided what they were going to do.
Not that you could tell
Yeah.
that they were cheaply made.
Yeah. What they
That
decided they were going to do is they were
dragon is
going
coming.
to they hired this guy to be the producer of their horror line, and they said, you're going to get a budget of $80,000 per movie, and we're going to give you the title, but you get to do everything else. So they gave him titles like The Cat People and I Walked with a Zombie, because these were market tested.
Right.
And he was actually one of the most innovative horror movie makers ever.
I mean, I could see working with something like that.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty fun.
He did everything with suggestion and shadow, and actually made like some of the best thrillers.
Oh, yeah.
Made.
Yeah,
Val,
it's where
Val
they
Luton.
where they talk about like Steven Spielberg with Jaws, where like the Bruce
You have
the
to
shark
innovate.
was broken for most of it.
Yeah.
But it actually made it scarier not to even show the robotic shark because.
Right, because otherwise you've got an obviously robotic shark.
Right.
When it's just like, oh no, it's a shark's head.
Yeah.
Much scarier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what we've got for this day in history. I think we've got some other segment of the show that we usually do. I can't really.
You never
Can't really
know.
think of it.
It's hard to remember when Cody's not here, right?
Is it? I think it's the top 10. That's what we usually do now.
Well, yeah, we go to top 10. So,
Yeah.
did you even think of one today?
We did.
Okay.
I did think of a top 10.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I know.
You're actually prepared?
I asked Mason before the show.
Oh, so you came up with the top 10 for today.
He came up with
It's
the top
going to
10.
be a very Mason.
It was certainly not me.
It's a very Mason top 10.
Okay.
So, we're doing top 10 Netflix shows.
Top 10 Netflix shows.
Netflix
okay.
originals.
Yeah. Netflix
not
originals.
Netflix, not Netflix
not just
shows.
a show that's been on Netflix.
So you can't say The Office 10 times.
I can say The Office 10 times.
You could,
Hey,
but please don't.
you've just been defeated.
Really? I'm not a big Netflixer, to be honest.
No?
Really?
I mean, I watch Netflix, but typically I'm watching for either movies that I know that are on there that I like to watch. I haven't been a big only your show, so that's really the only one I really know. Mindhunter.
Mindhunter.
That was a Netflix original.
That is definitely.
And
I may as well just say it now.
I've started that, so
Yes.
I like it obviously
It's a good
because it's
show.
about the origins, I guess, of the behavioral analysis unit within the FBI.
Yeah.
And so that is Criminal Minds has always been a show that I love. That's been a show forever, but this Mindhunter, I guess, is how it kind of all started that premise.
Right.
And so it's been pretty good from what I've seen so far.
It's,
so I liked it. So
one of the great things about Mindhunter
and
is
the one guy, the guy that plays Kemper,
yeah,
the serial killer.
he's a phenomenal actor.
Yeah, he really is, and it's kind of crazy to watch him in that role. So it's a little slow, I'll say that to some extent, because my wife tried to watch it with me, and she was like,
Can't get into
she didn't
it.
buy into it. So
So David Fincher is the producer of this, and he actually directed
Yeah.
3 episodes each season.
Hmm.
I just love this show. The second season is even better than the first, because we're talking about the FBI in the late 70s, early 80s, when this idea of profiling serial killers, and even the idea of serial killers, had not even
Right.
been a thing.
People
Yeah, they
like
did-
Charles Manson and Ted Bundy.
Right.
well, they were just monsters, is basically what they classified them as.
Right.
As people who just were insane and didn't have triggers or reasons why they did what they did. They were just born that way.
Right.
So
And it turns out there are a whole lot of factors that go into making somebody,
the monster.
the monster. But the guy who plays Ed Kemper is really the star of this whole thing.
Which
All the
you saw
acting
him.
is
That's
great,
him right
but
there. So yeah.
Yeah, he's something else. The interesting thing about Ed Kemper is that he turned himself in after the last of his murders.
Right.
And he actually requested the death penalty. He requested to be put to death, and that's not the way it happened. He just got life in prison. And every time he has a parole hearing, he just doesn't go. He said that he cooperated with the FBI's unit because he understood that what he was doing was a compulsion. And he said, the reason I'm cooperating is because I'd like for you to have the tools to say, if somebody understands that they're having these compulsions, that they can go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist and seek help. Because thinking about it isn't a crime. Doing it
Yeah.
Yeah.
is a totally different story.
That'll get you a nice little 10 by 10.
Yeah.
with some bars.
Yeah. He so one of the other things that he did was he narrated audiobooks for the blind.
Kemper did?
Yeah.
Did not know
After
that.
after
Wow.
being incarcerated, he has narrated a few thousand audiobooks for the blind.
Wow.
That's
Please enjoy this audiobook.
Yeah.
Don't think about it too much.
but he's in the show the guy that
Hope he's
plays
not
him
like
is-
sending subliminal messages to anyone.
yeah. One of the guys the guy who plays him in the show is really gigantic. He's got to be like 6'7", and he's
Because they
just-
claim he's like 6'9", I guess.
yeah, he's a huge person. But that is a super great show.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so next one. So this one's kind of special to me. It comes out soon.
Okay.
Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance.
Okay.
It's the I think it's a prequel to the Dark
Right.
Crystal movie, the Jim Henson movie from
Yeah.
the 80s. It looks really interesting
It
because
looks really good.
and it's got a bunch of big names in it.
Yeah.
I think it's like Andy Samberg.
I think it's one of those things is if you make a sequel to a well-loved and established
like lore and
30 years after the original, a lot of people are going to want to be involved.
So your thoughts, because this is similar to me for obviously the episode 1, 2, and 3 for Star Wars, because obviously everything is a lot better CGI. There's not the puppets and that the original Dark Crystal. I mean, it doesn't look the same, obviously.
Right.
Well, I think something that helps us a lot is that they did use puppets. I mean, yes, there's way more CGI and stuff, but the fact that they're actually actively trying to match some of the look of the original 1980s movie is good.
I mean, because it would be like trying to take Gremlins, and remake it today.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think they might be working on that.
They probably are.
I'm sure.
I'm sure they're trying to remake everything.
They're about to remake
Why would we have an original thought?
They're remaking The Princess Bride as a musical.
What?
Disney is, yeah.
See, this is why I don't like sequels.
So back to the Dark Crystal. This does look really good.
Yeah.
Because it is still Henson Productions.
Yeah, it is still.
They are using puppets. And I mean, for my generation, The Dark Crystal was one of those just completely beloved movies.
Yeah, and dude, I watched that movie just recently, and it's pretty.
It's dark.
It's pretty dark. It's pretty intense.
There were a lot of dark kids' fantasies in the 1980s.
It is called The Dark Crystal.
But. Yeah, but I mean, there were some kids' fantasies in the 80s that were just super dark.
Yeah, well, some of the names attached to this are crazy, like Helena Bonham Carter.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, Natalie Dormer. Harvey Fierstein.
Neat.
Yeah, Mark Hamill.
Okay.
Eddie Izzard. Toby Jones. Keegan-Michael Key.
Keegan-Michael Key?
Yeah. Simon Pegg. Andy Samberg.
Man, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, man. It's Sigourney Weaver.
Wow.
There's a lot of big names attached to this.
Nice. So we have a couple of suggestions.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go with this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Umbrella Academy.
Oh.
I don't know if anybody's seen that. That's based on a comic book.
I've had like 12 different people recommend that movie to me, and I have yet to watch it.
It's not bad.
It's
a series,
it's a series,
right?
Yeah. It's a series. It's a superhero series. But what it's really about is this. So all these kids were born on the same day, to mothers who had extremely accelerated pregnancies. So that's a mystery that they don't really get into during the first season. But this guy adopts all of them and makes them into a little family of superheroes. It's like the X-Men, except super dysfunctional. And it's pretty interesting. There are some fun, odd things where their mother is actually a cyborg, and their butler is a chimpanzee who talks. And
and you know what's crazy for me is that these Netflix shows, the amount of production value they've been putting into these.
Yeah,
like the CGI is like amazing.
I think
it's crazy.
They are all competing, really.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, how many awards have Netflix series won when it comes to, like? Didn't they even win some Oscars? A couple of them.
I think they put Roma up for an Oscar.
Yeah,
and I think it got best cinematography.
As it should have.
Yeah,
because that's a good-looking movie.
Yeah.
But if you look at like right now what's happening with HBO, because they had that Game of Thrones fan base,
right?
And it's almost like as soon as Game of Thrones ended, they had a flood of shows.
Yeah.
And they had a flood of really good shows.
Yeah.
None of them are just like, that one's not very good.
Yeah.
They're just all really, really phenomenal.
Well, I'll say we'll move on to another one.
Okay.
Not that I watched it. I had to. I was forced to watch it a few times. My son really got into this show, and then my wife did, for whatever reason. The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Oh, I love that. I love that movie.
Which, to me, was...
The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Yeah.
How should we say this and be politically correct? We're not going to. We're just going to say it was stupid, in my opinion. So, because it is one of those
Well, you know, it's funny.
shows that
It
is
hits
just
really close to home for San Angelo people too. The original plot of it.
of being in a
I'm being trapped in a bunker by a
Yeah.
religious fanatic.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I find a lot of the show to be kind of irritating.
Kind of.
Yeah,
I was
but
irritated by pretty much all of it.
I'll say that John Hamm, because my girlfriend really likes this show, and I got to see John Hamm's part in it. And
Just like that. The did you see the graphic? The lower
yeah.
third, white women found. Yeah. So
I mean, I can see there's a lot of, under the, I guess, guilelessness of the main character and general horribleness of everybody else. Everybody's horrible. And that's sort of a theme that runs through a lot of American comedy, I think,
yeah.
where most of the characters, when you get introduced to them, you're just like, wow, they're all terrible. There is some political commentary, but they don't do very much.
Yeah.
Still, John Hamm is the highlight for me because he just karate, 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 karate.
I will say, if you enjoyed 30 Rock, you might like.
Yeah, and that was, I think, one of the things.
I mean, it's the same producer. Tina Fey is
Right.
the executive producer on the show. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
And of course, the person who plays Kimmy Schmidt was one of the long-running people in The Office.
Yeah.
So that seems to be something that she plays a lot, as somebody who's just sort of.
So there's my next one, even though it wasn't mine.
All right.
So, because that's what I'm going to have to do since I'm not a big Netflix series watcher.
Hey.
And here's another one, which actually has a San Angelo native in it.
Really?
Ozark.
Ozark, yeah. Mark Manchaka.
Yep.
And not that he's ever going to see this, but man, he does a good job. He does a really phenomenal job in that show, and most of the things he's in. He was just recently in something else too. But Ozark is really good. There's a lot of parallels with this and Breaking Bad, where this family is sort of forced into laundering money for the cartel, and he figures out that if you go to did they call it the Gold Coast?
I haven't actually seen the show.
You haven't seen it?
No.
Oh, okay. They go to the Ozarks, and there's a part of the Ozarks that's right on a huge lake. I think they called it the Gold Coast. And he said, all the
Jason
businesses
Bateman,
there sort of.
huh?
Yeah.
He actually directed a lot of the episodes.
They do a really good job. So he moves his family from Chicago to there, and he immediately buys like a touristy hotel and just he calls himself an angel investor as a way of laundering huge amounts of money for the cartel.
Right.
And it's basically just all the stuff there's Mark Manchaka.
There he is.
Yeah, it's a good show. I really enjoyed it. Also enjoyed the second season. Great acting. And when the violence happens, it's abrupt.
And this one's called what again?
Ozark.
Ozark, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Laura Linney is...
I think it's gotten 2 seasons now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, Laura Linney's a good actress.
Yeah.
She's really good.
That looked like that hurt.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, when the violence happens, it's... Ooh!
All right.
So I have another one.
Okay.
Well, which I guess I'll go with the obvious Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. It has to be on this list.
Yeah, one of our account executives, I guess the mall that they shot in Atlanta or whatever, she actually took her girls this summer, and they got to go to that mall and see like
The Star Court.
the facade and everything of all the stuff that was still there. So they hadn't taken a lot of it down. I guess that was there. There's a candy store or something.
Yes.
Yeah. So it
Oh,
was
yeah.
still the front
Okay.
was still up the storefront for that.
That's pretty cool.
So
Well, that's pretty crazy because there's like scenes near the end of it. Not to spoil anything, but there's like they toss cars around inside that mall.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I haven't watched this. So
You haven't watched
No.
this?
have you haven't watched any of it yet?
no, I don't know any of it.
So I just
Other
other
finished
than-
the 3rd season.
Other than social media people talking
It's,
about it, I don't know anything about it.
So it's obviously 80s nostalgia.
It's like if John Carpenter's The Thing and Stand By Me had a little baby.
Sort of, yeah. I think when I first watched it, and you can tell by the titles, I was like, wow, this is exactly like a Stephen King novel.
Yeah.
But also like a Steven Spielberg movie.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
then
that was their main influence.
That was pretty much it, especially in the first season when it starts out, because it does start out a little bit slower than the other seasons before they really get into all the weirdness.
Yeah.
The Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But if if any part of your childhood was during the 1980s, and even if it wasn't, there are going to be a lot of things in this that you'll remember.
Yeah.
That
all of my childhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's it's a great show, and it's funny because they try to keep it like relatively realistic to the 1980s.
Yeah.
You'll see like everyone walking around, they've all got a cigarette, and it's all
a lot of cigarettes happening. Yeah. And even sometimes the actors they choose, like in the second season, Paul Reiser shows up.
Winona Ryder.
Cary Elwes plays a part in the third season.
Yeah.
It's yeah. You get a bunch of people from there. And of course, some kind of green slime. That's definitely a 1980s thing. Yeah. Third season has a lot to do with Soviets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was a preoccupation during that time.
Cold War.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What other suggestions do we have?
So I'll go with another one that
Okay.
I heard a lot about. Obviously, my son was in high school at the point, but 13 Reasons Why.
13
Reasons
Why.
Didn't that just come out?
Everybody talked about that.
There's a new season of that just out.
With the, I guess, suicide and
Right.
and all that. So
I heard there was a lot of controversy with that because they practically showed some of the suicides on the show.
Really?
And a lot of mental health experts were saying like, don't watch this show. It's not like if you have a mental health problem, don't watch this show. It's not going to help you.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, a show about somebody who commits suicide might not be
right.
So you're saying I shouldn't watch Mindhunter in case I snap?
Hey, there's really relatively little danger of you becoming a serial killer.
Really? Do you know where I work?
I have not seen 13 Reasons Why.
I have not either.
And I haven't either. I just know
I
about that.
I have a lot of friends who have, though.
Yeah.
And most think they like it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know
a lot of Netflix shows have been relatively good.
Yeah,
they haven't had a lot of misses. And what's been like popular has been the good stuff. Obviously,
of course.
The way with Netflix works is like if you're watching a TV channel, you'll have to watch a bad episode before you get to a good episode.
Right.
With Netflix, it's like all the good stuff is going to float above.
Of course.
Yeah, but it takes you 2 hours to find a good one.
Yeah, well, that's
because you scroll through everything for 2 hours.
I guess I'll just watch The Office
You waste
again.
a movie until
Right.
you get to something that you want to watch.
That's the other thing about Netflix and their business model. It seemed to be just buy everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just buy all the properties and see what works.
Yeah.
And of course, with Amazon doing
Prime
their streaming
video.
stuff, there's a lot of competition out there. I don't know if we're counting movies.
Let me ask you this question, just in the midst of this, just because let's derail a little bit.
Absolutely.
So do you feel like Netflix and Prime doing what they have done has upped what the major networks are putting out?
Definitely.
Yeah. I guess I don't watch much on the major networks.
Right.
Because...
But like the shows like This Is Us, or I don't know if you've seen the new NBC show, The Village. If you've watched The Village.
I haven't watched either of those.
My wife heard about that, and we actually started watching that show. And it's one of those. I mean, it's actually really good. I was kind of impressed, and even being on one of our stations here,
really?
I thought, wow, that's a good program.
I was just at a conference where they had a CBS little offshoot where we were at a CBS meeting, and they were purposefully branding some of their shows as CBS originals.
Right.
Oh.
So that just like the Netflix originals, they
right.
Yeah.
Which of them has the streaming platform with the Star Trek shows and
I think that's CBS.
Twilight Zone? That is CBS, right? All Access?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah, because it's the new Twilight Zone with
right. Jordan Peele.
Yeah,
yes.
Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
I think It's interesting because I think HBO started the
originals.
people call like prestige TV.
Right.
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 Every 1 hour episode is practically a movie.
Right. Because I mean, it really blew up with The Sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
But before The Sopranos, they had Oz, which I remember seeing long ago.
Wow. Yeah.
And they had Oz, and then I think they did one called Carnival in the late 90s.
I couldn't afford HBO.
Yeah.
So didn't know.
I would see it if my family was traveling and we got a hotel
Oh,
room.
yeah,
or
I get a
something
hotel
like
room.
that, and it would be like,
Right.
what is HBO doing?
Yeah.
Right up until it got to HBO After Dark, and then Mom turned it off.
Yeah.
So
But we... then it was The Sopranos, and that's really when people started paying attention to that stuff. Yeah. They did things like Deadwood and all that. But it started, I think, bleeding over into network when, I don't remember which network it was, but they made Lost.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And the
I
Lost...
think that was ABC.
I think it was ABC.
Yeah, I remember the first time, and I didn't watch Lost until well after the second season. But a friend said, no, you really have to watch this. And I watched the premiere, and I thought, how did... You know,
Right.
I can't even believe somebody made this.
Well, and it's like a lot of the
Abrams.
other cable networks. I mean, you have AMC and The Walking Dead. I mean, that's their
Yeah.
basically franchise, if
Yeah.
you want to say.
Right.
It's just some of these, like Netflix, have jumped on board
The-
to get a bunch of those series,
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
opposed to just one or two that's just trying to
Well,
hook people in.
And you have to think about, I think there are a lot of people aspiring to make really good things. It's just getting somebody with money to listen. And, you know, when the market opens up with more competition, people like Amazon, Netflix,
Hulu,
all of them,
yeah,
being like, well, you know, if this is where the competition is, then we're going to put our money there.
right.
Yeah.
And it's given a lot of people opportunities, and a lot of movie makers opportunities to make movies without the constraints that
Right.
they're used to.
Right.
Well, you get these people that have been working with TV for years and years and years, then all of a sudden they have a Netflix show, and they're like, wait, we don't have a censorship or anything
Right.
that we have to like go through. We can
have
do
to,
whatever we want.
We don't have to paste this for commercials.
Right. It's a completely different ballgame.
I think the most successes that I've seen are the people who are used to making movies,
Yeah.
who say, "Oh, I get to stretch out.
Well, you know, that's
Yeah. What do you, I don't have to wrap everything up in 2 hours with a
I can
bow.
actually make a novel
Right.
into this."
right. Well, it's like that was a Black Mirror Bandersnatch.
But-
That was an interesting thing.
So Black Mirror was going to be one of my suggestions.
Yeah.
Because, and for those of you who haven't seen it, it's dark.
It's pretty crazy.
What's a Black Mirror?
Yeah. So I've seen a really humorous. I don't know if there's a black. I'll just do season 5 trailer. How about that? There was a humorous thing online that said Black Mirror could be summed up as, what if computers only too much?
Right.
So it's essentially like a Twilight Zone feel, where each
Yeah.
episode is its own
It's an anthology
self-contained story.
series. Yeah.
And they're sort of almost morality plays,
Yeah.
but they all center around technology and the effects that it can have on your life. Now, the first episode
What?
is...
Technology has an effect on our life?
Yeah.
Stop.
And most of these shows center around the negative.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think I've seen a single positive Black Mirror episode.
Yeah. I mean, there's one that's San Junipero would be one that's pretty positive. But most of them, no, absolutely not. I mean, starting with the first episode, before it came to Netflix.
Yeah, it was on what was it, on BBC?
Yeah.
It was on BBC
It was on
first
BBC,
for the first season.
And I had streamed it, definitely not illegally. And I tried to tell my friends about it, and I would show them the first episode, and they'd say, I can't watch this. It's too dark.
Right.
And the first episode is actually the one with the Prime Minister.
Yeah, that one's it's a
The
little
one
like,
with the Prime Minister and
ooh.
Twitter. I don't know if you remember just a few years back when, was it Corbyn? I think it might have been Jeremy Corbyn. He had a huge scandal where apparently in his college days, he...
Did some stuff with a pig.
with a pig's head.
Oh, okay.
So this Black Mirror episode preceded news of that. and a person kidnapped a duchess, I think. And on Twitter, you know, he said he like
gave
his list of demands.
Posted a video of her,
and because of social media, it started like gaining all this steam.
And it was basically, you have to do this stuff on live TV
with a pig.
Yeah, no cuts, and then we'll release her.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And his career and life are pretty much destroyed because of that. Anyway, it's a dark show. Really well done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty crazy.
So,
but like Black Mirror Bandersnatch was like a movie that they made out of the show, and it was a choose your own adventure movie. So they'd ask you a question. Do you want to look at your phone or look at the laptop? And then there'd be two little buttons that say look at phone, look at laptop, and that influences your direction in the plot.
Oh, so just like Dragon's Lair.
Yeah.
The game.
Yep.
Back in the day.
Just
do you want to take that door or do you want to go that way?
That.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Or choose your own adventure book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That was actually pretty interesting, and I think
there's like 5 different endings, and you can play the game for up to 5 hours. The movie.
the possibilities on streaming services are pretty big because you can get into things like interaction.
Right.
I don't know how much that does for
And
the story.
who has 5 hours to do that
That's
with?
exactly.
I mean,
I mean, if you're already binging a show,
Yeah.
then maybe.
the only time, and I'll say this, I had never watched The Walking Dead, but I binged watched it on Netflix because so many people had talked about it.
Yeah.
So when I had my knee surgery and I was out for like a week, just
Right.
at home trying to rest up
That's
so
a
I
lot
could
of Walking
walk
Dead
on
you
it.
can watch.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I totally watched. I mean, from season 1, I think I got through season 4.
Wow.
I mean, in a week because I
Yeah.
just watched one episode after another.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
I started when the TV show came out. I went and I bought probably the first trade paperback of the comic that it was based on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was expecting for it to be not an ongoing series.
Right.
Because the thing with ongoing series in comics or on TV is they don't have an ending in mind.
Right.
And I think that really starts to affect the story. Once you start getting into it, you're like, wait a minute, this is just going to keep going like this
Forever and ever
until they are
and ever.
until they run out of audience.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they're going to just sort of, well, we got to wrap this up. Let's just,
Let's start killing somebody off.
Yeah.
Let's kill off this guy.
right.
Yeah.
So
What number are we on now?
We don't
have numbers
we don't
usually
have
on the
numbers.
top
Derailed.
10.
We're
Let's,
Controversial.
but I'm going to go
Going,
back.
we don't need numbers.
I'm going to go back to one of the first probably Netflix series. Again, not one that I watched,
Okay.
but everybody talked about. Orange is the New Black.
Oh, yeah.
So that was, I guess, one of the original Netflix originals. So
Yeah.
It really was.
that
Yeah.
everybody really kind of tuned into, which was crazy to me to think that people wanted to watch a series about people in prison.
Right.
So,
Well, you know, I think what's really great about the show is that it's essentially a comedy. I mean, at its most basic. But they do a really good job of that thing that a lot of sitcoms try to do, which is toss in serious moments.
right.
You know, messages and stuff like that. But they're way more skilled than most sitcoms ever were. It's a really good show. I mean, there's a lot that I think people watching this and seeing what it's like to be incarcerated, what happens to guards,
Oh, yeah.
and how being in charge of people like that changes the way people think.
Oh, sure. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen that show that they did called, I think it was 90 Days In,
Okay.
where they actually ask for, I think that was the name of it, I can't remember, where if they came to you and said, Jeff, we want you to just an experiment, spend 90 days in this correctional facility.
I think I'd
And
heard
they
about
do
that.
not know that you are a participant. All they know is your backstory. Like, you have to come up with your backstory
Right.
and your 90 days in this correctional facility. And, you know, it's crazy because they tell you up front in that show that if you do anything illegal while you're in jail, you
gonna
can be
stay-
prosecuted for it.
Right.
So, you know, and to watch how they live with other inmates and how they go through their 90 days and if they survive it, and it's just crazy to see
That's-
their whole thought process change in the way that they deal with people. because of the way that incarcerated people sometimes think and act. I mean, so.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Go ahead.
that's just wild to think about, because I think a lot of, I mean, at least from what I've heard from or seen in pop culture, being in prison is at least 30% doing illegal stuff. Because you have to, I mean, they have a whole barter system. You have to trade. You have to do black market stuff.
And it was crazy because some of those participants in that experiment, if you want to call it that, tried to just keep to themselves and, not cause issues. And you can't really do that. I mean, there's not even that possibility of, because then they're just like, everybody's like, well, what's that dude doing,
Right.
So.
Yeah. I personally would not like to go to prison.
No.
At any point in my life.
I'm too pretty to go to jail.
I'm not. It's just not a. No. Absolutely.
Another show. I know you have one pulled up, but it's I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson.
Okay.
It's a comedy series. It's if you're into Tim and Eric, that kind of absurdist humor. It's very much like that.
Okay.
It's a kind of a sketch show. It's just the weirdest. It's the weirdest thing. It's got these like 70s intro cards and things.
Okay.
And it's just, you can tell it's just nuts.
It does look pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like.
There's a game show part where every time they get something wrong, this like monster mascot comes up and dances next to him, but gets like too into it and like starts beating people up. He's like, dude, you gotta stop. It's the weirdest,
I do like really wild sketch comedy shows.
Yeah.
I might check that out.
There's like a whole episode where like the like he's trying to find the creator of Garfield, and he's like, this is the creator of Garfield's house. And he's like with a date in the house. He's like, I bought this house from the creator of Garfield. And like it's this whole like ongoing thing through the entire series where like they keep cutting back to him being like, this was the creator of Garfield's house. And then it ends up being like a lie at the end. Like the guy was like,
of course
I created Garfield. And I was like, no.
No. Robbie McKenzie, speaking about Orange is the New Black, he says, most loathsome protagonist ever. I was rooting for Piper to get shanked.
The only other one that I have from Netflix, I'm going to say, and I watched a few episodes, is The Ranch.
I never saw that.
The Sam Elliott and what's his name from? He was on 2.5 Men.
Yeah.
Ashton Kutcher.
Right.
Yeah. So, which there were funny parts of it. It just never hooked me enough.
The Ranch.
Yeah, but a lot of people I know have watched it. I guess it's been on Netflix for like 6 seasons now. So
wow.
Yeah. So like
I think they did.
I think they did 10 episodes per. But the premise is Ashton Kutcher is a washed-up football player.
Okay.
And his dad, Sam Elliott, and so he comes back home, and it's just kind of crazy to watch the interaction between them. It's funny. I mean, it's a sitcom, is what it is.
Okay.
But it was one that, I mean, I like Sam Elliott enough that I wanted to watch, and it was in a different role for him. I think they're in Montana, is where it is.
Okay.
But Sam not being the actual cowboy that he typically is,
Right.
it was just different. But just to watch, and they own his mom owns the bar, if I remember correctly. So.
Well, what's funny is where you see Sam Elliott as not a cowboy is Parks and Recreation.
That's right.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
exactly what I thought
Yeah.
of.
So he's just like hippie.
Yeah. So funny. So I've got one. I think we can end on this guy.
Okay.
I just called the show a guy, but hey.
You can't do that on National Women's Equality Day.
You can't do that.
It's actually the female protagonist. So. Russian Doll.
Russian Doll.
Yeah. So this is a fun show. Obviously super adult.
No, that's fair to say.
Yeah.
There's nothing in here for the kiddies.
No. This is not for children. But the protagonist just keeps dying over and over again.
So it's like
it's a little bit like
like Groundhog Day.
Happy Death
Groundhog's
Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a darker Groundhog Day.
A little bit. But even if she makes different choices sometimes, she still dies. It's a really well made series.
Amy Poehler.
Yeah, it's really well made. And when we talked about Orange is the New Black, that made me think of this because the lady who plays the main character here is one of the people in Orange is the New Black.
Yeah, super adult.
Yeah,
so
there's
I just saw right there. Well, and that begs me to question too. How many people have their Netflix account just up and about, and that have kids.
Yeah.
That they don't know what their kids watching unless you go back and you
Turn
look
on.
and you're continue watching what
right.
were you watching? So
Right.
yeah.
I think I'm not sure, but I think there are parental
Filters?
settings. and
Yeah,
stuff
well,
like
you
that
can.
turn on.
There's like Netflix for kids.
Right.
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm
but
also, I mean,
can you make it where it's password? Because you can like set up different ones. So
Right.
like my wife has
Right.
hers, I have mine. My 19-year-old has his, and then there's the kids account on there as well. But can you set that up where it's password so that if you click on one, you can't?
I haven't needed to check.
I know.
But,
That's what just a thought process there. So hate to bring out the parent in me, but
well, it's an important thing
question.
because when you have as many properties as Netflix does,
things that are on there, even just for lack of a better thing, just horror movies.
Yeah.
There's some things that you would not want a 5-year-old to be watching.
right?
So
Absolutely. I think, and that's one of the interesting things about things like Netflix is they own so many things that you and I could watch completely different things on Netflix, probably for the rest of our lives, and not know about the other shows unless.
And they're even just in all their different realms, as Cody has kind of pointed out to me over the last several months, documentaries.
Yeah.
I've started watching more documentaries on Netflix than anything
Yeah.
else, just to educate myself on some things.
They have really phenomenal food documentaries on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
The
There's
Chef's
that-
Show.
Yeah. With John Favreau.
That's a really good show. I can't believe I didn't even mention any of those. I think they have Ugly Delicious, and then they have another one called Street Food, which is really, really, really well done.
You know what show is on Netflix, but is not a Netflix show that I recommend to everyone? Is Documentary Now.
I think
It's Bill Hader.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's a crazy show. You just need to check it. You just need to watch it. You just need to watch it.
All right. Well,
There you go.
I think that's it for us, you guys.
Yeah.
Your top 10 Netflix
Oops.
series to watch.
Actually, put that all the way up.
Not that
Probably
I've seen,
top,
but one of them.
15.
Yeah. Maybe that'll keep you from spinning across your Netflix for
Yeah.
2 hours.
Just
Yeah.
watch The Office again.
Just choose
Just
one.
watch The Office.
Just
again.
choose one.
That's it. All right. See you guys tomorrow, 11 o'clock. Hope you have a good rest of the day.